The Trailblazers had the 6th worst record in the league, the 3rd worst record in the West, and the worst, yes, the worst net rating. With Dame still in his prime, this is not where you want to be, but if they do end up holding on to this pick, they're going to be under some pressure to hit on a player that can really help them. So who are they likely to select? Well, I've scoured the internet for mock drafts to gain information and selected 4 players I think have a chance to be selected by them, and I'm going to give you some info on them. So without any further dilly-dallying, let's get into it. Let's start with Jalen Duren out of Memphis. Duren really impressed towards the end of his college career with Memphis. He was immense defensively and a force inside on the offensive end. While most of his shots further from the basket did start to go in during that period, I'm still not quite convinced about that part of his game. What I am sure about is his rim running potential though. That would be the base for me. He'd be a nice lob threat for Dame and Anthony Simons, and should add some more rim protection to a team that finished in the bottom 3rd for blocks per game last season. The upside lies with the passing though. He really flashed some great playmaking. A lot of that was on the move and when he was rolling to the basket. That should give the Blazers an extra wrinkle to their pick and roll game if it develops. He's also only 18 and won't turn 19 till November, so you'd imagine there's still so much development ahead of him. The Nurkic situation would be an interesting one to watch if they did make this pick, and considering how Roy is, I could see them drafting him and still bringing Nurkic back and opt to play the long game with him. Next up, let's talk about Benedict Mathurin out of Arizona. I've said this a couple times in the channel now, but the case for Mathurin is really simple. He was a really nice shooter each time at Arizona, his movement off the ball was great, and he's a high-level athlete. That pretty much makes up his floor as a prospect. He should be able to provide that at the very least for this Blazers team. The shooting in particular would be very helpful for a team that finished in the bottom 3rd for 3-point efficiency last year. The upside lies in the defensive and ball handling potential. He has the tools to be a great defender and he showed flashes, but his IQ and awareness were lacking. That should improve as he adopts a smaller offensive role though. He was Arizona's go-to man, so he had some experience as a ball handler, but he didn't quite show enough to instill any real confidence in me that he can do that at the next level. He could definitely grow and develop into that though. He can fit next to either Dame or Simons, but I think they'll struggle to get all 3 of them on the court for extended stretches. He should be a more than serviceable 3rd guard though, and will probably be an impactful player for a really long time. Murray might be one of the most solid players in this draft. He was an elite scorer in the Big Ten last season and put up 2K-esque numbers. I think he can scale back his usage and still be effective because of his ability as a shooter, a cutter, and his scoring ability out of early seals inside. He shouldn't really be that limited as an offensive player, especially if the jumper does translate. Besides Dame, who only played 24 games, and CJ, who's now in New Orleans, the Blazers didn't have a single player who averaged more than 20 points per game. Anthony Simons might get there next year, and if they add Keegan Murray to that, with Dame coming back as well, the Blazers could be a pretty decent offensive team. I think they still have to be trying to contend as long as Dame's on the roster, so the fact that Keegan is 22 years old shouldn't be a massive issue. The defense is where my evaluation of Murray differs from the consensus. I'm a lot higher on his potential on that end. Yeah, he might struggle when he's switched on to guards and really hyper-athletic wings, but as a rim protector inside when he's up against slower wings and bigs, I think he can do pretty well. The Blazers are also going to have to rebuild their defense, and I think they could definitely do worse than adding Murray to their roster. Finally, let's talk about AJ Griffin out of Duke. Griffin was an elite shooter during his time at Duke. He made shots off the catch and pulled up from all around the perimeter. He's got a bit of a funky shooting stance, but it works for him. He should be able to make shots from the jump. Shooting is very sparse on this Blazers roster as it currently stands, so his floor spacing would definitely be welcomed. He showed flashes of good burst and explosion, but they were few and far between. I suspect that was as the result of his past injuries. I mentioned this in my full report on him, but those injuries either held him back from reaching his full potential, or they may end up limiting that potential altogether. Time will tell with that. That's where the upside lies though. Defensively, I like his frame and general strength, but his feet are slow and his hands aren't particularly active. He's going to need to put in some work on that end to ensure that he ends up as a true two-way wing. As mentioned earlier, the Blazers are in the process of rebuilding their defense, so I think he'll have to improve on that end.